All right, now recording. All right, so the drawings here. So the initial drawings that you're making are, you're making 6 4-inch. I'm going to call these studies because they can be somewhat informal. If you want to draft out 4x4 squares, I'm going to start this an inch from the margin of the paper. 4-inch. Okay. Now these don't have to be drafted exactly. They can be sketched out as long as they're close to this size. That's fine. Now, so we're trying for, so it's form, and that is 3D. We want space, depth, and we begin with shape. That is 2D, and I'll say develop shape into form. And so the way that works, you can, if you can start with this example that I've given, which is these just starts with circles. Those are shapes. Overlap to create some depth. Bigger here. There you go. And even if these are not perfect circles, I wouldn't worry about it too much. To meet the requirements of the assignment, what you need to do more than draw a perfect circle is to create the effect of form and depth, starting with shape. So now this might be, in the 4x4, this shape might be a little bit, Well, it's probably about as small as you would want to make it because it'd be hard to articulate light and shadow. But if we say that light is coming from, I'm going to have light coming from this direction. So here's the sun coming down from up there. And that means that shadows are going to be on this side. And I can start this out just sketching it roughly. I don't want to make that solid and leave a little bit of the paper showing through. You got to be careful when I get down to like this edge that I don't, like right there where there's shadow and shadow. I want to be careful that I don't make the edge disappear, because then it will look like this blends into that. And that's not what I'm trying to do. I want to create clarity. Okay. And then out here in what could be called a negative area, I think I'll probably just end up making that solid because I want to define this edge not with a contour line, but with contrast. And contrast is any difference in like light and dark, difference in color, difference in texture, difference in sound. It's just any kind of a difference creates contrast, and there can be a lot of contrast or very little. Just like there can be like low contrast where it's just barely, you can barely tell the difference between two things. That's something that's used in art and design pretty often. All right. So I can sketch this with pencil. I think I'm going to do one of these just with pencil. Okay. So because it's in pencil and I've got an eraser, I can come back to this and clean it up where I need to. I'm using kind of a soft pencil, so my hand's going to smudge. I'm going over the. Oops. All right, that's not a bad start. I'll clean that up, that edge up a little bit. Good. There. All right, now. Give me a second. I'll be right back. I'm going to I'm going to clean this up a little bit. Okay. So here, not sure. All right. So I think before I do, I guess I wasn't even going to ink this one. Okay, so if you're using pencil to fill in large areas, you lay the pencil flat, hold it with your fingertips, then you can use the side of the graphite and fill something in much more evenly. I don't necessarily have to do that here, except I'm trying to create this like really sharp edge right there. So I want it to be uniform. Okay. Okay, better. Yeah, see this? You're going to do these in collage. So we're going to do using like cut pieces of paper to create the shading. I think this one's too small. But you'd see, like when this goes up to 8 by 8, if you were to use this, then of course that would get 2 times the size, or 2 times the area. All right. So I'm using hatching when I'm doing the shading on them, so I can imitate what it might look like using individual pieces to build them up. We'll talk about ways to make that as efficient as possible when you're doing this, during that collage phase. But this, excuse me, if this kind of work is new to you, then I recommend that you stick with something that's relatively simple that will allow you to create the effect that you need to create for the assignment, because you don't have to make something complicated for your work to be successful or good. In many cases, a simpler solution is just as good or better than a complicated one. Okay, that's not bad. I'm going to get this evened out here. But I want to make this like, I want to try to keep this from looking like it's stuck to the bigger one. And I think that means I have to blend, like kind of fade this shading out. Put some lighter stuff up there. I'm leaving a little bit of a highlight around the dark side of it, which is something that happens in, like if you see like a strong light source on a sphere, if you look at it, like if the moon is in its half phase, and you just like look at it for a minute, you can start to see like the light kind of creeping around the around it. Helps to make it look more three-dimensional. Also, because I need contrast, if I have dark area, then I'm going to lose that edge. Fortunately, the way light works is that you do get this, like this edge here would be a little bit lighter than that dark background. And sometimes you can make it up to make sure that you have contrast in your drawing. Sometimes the way something really looks isn't clear enough, and so you can mess around with it. and make it look more clear than it normally would be, because you're making a drawing or you're designing something. You're not like, I'm not making a photograph here, so I don't have to worry about it looking photographic. All right. Does that seem clear what I just did right there?
Yeah.
Good. Do you have any questions about drawings you're doing?
Are we going with like just pencil or we're using like colors and stuff?
So for these drawings, you can ink them. I'm going to say that you can do these. I'll give you the option of either just doing them with pencil or coming back and inking them. So like if I come back and ink this, like this, I guess, a reason to ink this is that it's going to look more like the finished thing that you do. So you can see more clearly what you're going to get. Now, I don't know that I'm not going to necessarily have to make this background completely solid like that, but it will give me more the contrast. So this is where like this brush pen is a good thing to draw with. Yeah, I gotta say it looks better with the ink. Not, but you can get an idea. You can get a pretty good idea of what to expect in terms of making things look three-dimensional when you use pencil. But the ink does help to make things look the way they're gonna look in the finished version. That's pretty good. Yeah. It's out here. There. Like that. So, I mean, this is looks kind of like, this is a bit of a rough sketch once I put this ink on it, but that's good. This tells me a lot about what I could expect from the process of finishing that, if this is my if this is the one I'm using. Now, all right, the another one. So some of these examples that I have show like student using more organic kind of rocky things which you could use. It's a similar kind of thing where you show these things overlapping. I mean, just showing them overlapping gives you depth. Because if they overlap, then there's got to be space there for them. You know, it's got to be like, I mean, there's going to be at least, shallow space is going to be there. So this is the same idea as this one, just using organic. So organic is something that seems to come from nature, seems to be something natural, like water, oil, bubbly stuff, who knows what. You don't have to specifically say that these shapes represent anything in particular. If you do something similar with them. And I can say they're lit from behind. And so the edge is all. But the edge will stay light to it. So the sketching with the pencil can go pretty fast, which is really what you want. The these like a these 4x4 studies don't have to be perfect drawings. I mean, you're using them to try out ideas. There. And then So it's a little more challenging to put the shading like in the middle as if it's being lit from a light source that's behind the objects. So what I'm going to have to do is just do a little bit more work to shade the middle darker without making it just like a solid area. Yeah. Yeah, so like this is better. This one I was hurrying, so not getting very good results yet, but I can keep working with it. Edge a little bit more. It's better. Now, what I need to be able to do is erase the pencil that's there and have the imagery show up clearly. So I don't want to have edges disappear when I remove the pencil. Okay. So that's all right. That's decent. So I'm going to rate this drawing. Okay, this is. I'm going to say this one is good and okay. Some drawings that you do will always be better than others. Everyone makes, you make drawings, and sometimes it's like, it's not that good, and you just move on and make something else. All right, just going to use that piece underneath, trace that shape of the 4x4 like that. I will try something with perspective. So I talked about linear perspective a little bit, and so this when you have this thing called the horizon line that represents eye level in a perspective drawing, and the vanishing point have. Let's say I'm going to put it over here. You can have it really anywhere. Like it can be like right there. It would be right in the middle. I think that can be useful, but it also can be like you can also just like make the image a little bit I guess, kind of limits sometimes what you can do, because you kind of just like the viewer kind of keeps getting drawn back to this spot right in the middle. But anyway, I can still do that. I'm just going to put a hole here. Do that. So if this is possibly something that's, if the perspective is like you haven't done it before and you're like, yeah, I'm not sure I can do that, then don't. Make drawings like those. That's okay. I'm showing this as an option for other ways you can create the appearance of three-dimensional form and convincing depth, which is what the linear perspective will give you. So you can see my horizon line is not right in the middle. My vanishing point is not dead center. It's a little bit off to the left. Where the vanishing point is directly in front of the viewer. So if I put the vanishing point over here, then the view is as if you're standing over to the side. This might be. Definitely give me. Like that. That's okay. I think I'm going to do something a little different than just say here. I'm going to say that it's maybe not quite so organized as like a street scene or something like that. I'm just going to have like. Yeah. Put a close-up of a surface there, and maybe even some things might not go to the vanishing point. That's better. I like this better, where I can really emphasize volume. Here, this goes above the horizon. This edge that we're seeing is just going to go down to the vanishing point. That's above my eye level, the angle comes down. And this one, that's good. That's enough. I'm going to do that as a 1. Okay. Where's my light source? It's over here. I'll do another one. So these surfaces that are turned away from that light source will be darkest. There's some broad striping that's close together. Of course, in my drawing, this is going to be approximation. All right. These front surfaces are also facing away, but not quite as much. Yep. Too much stuff on my table. It starts to crowd my arm. Oops. Okay, now the top could just be light, or, so I'll have to figure this out. These be white, or I could just do a few of these like marks that are going to have to go to the like angle toward that vanishing point. So I don't want them to be seen as just blank. Now here, I've got round surface. What I'm imagining it to be ground surface back here. And I can do something a little bit like something a little bit less of a pattern, just more like hatching to create the appearance of a gray, so there's a better contrast. Okay, so here, so these are like the same value, which is lightness and darkness, like these two surfaces and then these two surfaces. So what I would do is maybe I'm going to darken the one that's behind a little bit without letting it blend into some adjacent darker surface. Oh, come on, focus. Like that. That's good. Actually, I kind of like that. That's not a bad drawing at all. Yeah, and like here in the finished version, if this is the collage, that's going to be, these lines are going to be gone and just create that edge with contrast. So I guess I'm probably going to need a little more up there. Okay, this one, I'm going to do this one quick. just try this as solid surfaces. Let's go for something really simple. A little highlight. So I'm losing my edge right there. I think if I leave like a little white outline successfully where the contour line was, that might actually work to help define that. Here, so this would have to be really precise to get that. But you could also, it also, I guess, meant to show you could do some of this with, like some of these could just be bigger, flat shapes of cut paper, which might be useful. So we can do some shading on the ground there. That's good. I think we just have to make this So like to trying to define this edge, I put the pen on the line and then just draw out. Trying to resist the temptation to put a line around things. This is why you make drawings, so you can see whether or not your idea is going to work. So I can go through this whole drawing and then just decide that some of it will work, some of it won't. And if I really like the image, that's better, a little bit less solid. This I'm losing my edges on the right side. That's actually not bad. You know, sometimes it still happens to me. Sometimes I'll have like an idea, and I'll, to do something a certain way, and I'll talk myself out of it because I'll think like, that's not really going to work. But I don't follow through and make it, and so I never find out. And sometimes, doing this where I'm thinking like, oh boy, this isn't going to work. If I stick with it, it will work. Or I figure out how to make it work. Yeah, this is a little like too. It's better. Yeah, these get a little too dark, so I'm not sure if making this solid was the best idea. But oh well. If I like the drawing, then I would do another 4x4 and try to work out the shading a little bit more clearly. So, all of you could have, for your 6 small drawings, you could have 2 that are the same. This basically the same drawing with different shading. Okay. Does that help? Hope so.